Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this simultaneous meeting of Babergh District Council Cabinet and Mid-Suffolk District Council Cabinet. May I first of all remind you of some domestic arrangements. Please ensure that microphones are turned off when not in use. Please do not interrupt other speakers. If you are attending the meeting to speak and persistently interrupt the meeting, you may be asked to leave. Please remember to use the chat function only to indicate that you wish to speak and not to post comments or questions. Please note that messages in the chat panel can be viewed by people watching the live broadcast. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of this meeting will be filmed except where there are confidential or exempt items. If you make a representation to the meeting, you will be deemed by the Council to have consented to being filmed. By entering this meeting as a speaker, you are also consenting to being recorded by the Council and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes. The Council, members of the public and the press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and the press are not lawfully excluded. I'm Councillor Susie Morley, the leader of Mid-Suffolk District Council, and I will be chairing this meeting today. I will now ask the Governance Officer to carry out the introductions.
Thank you, Chair. In addition to the Cabinet members today, we have the following members joining us: Councillor Rachel Eburn, Councillor John Field, Councillor Sarah Mansell, Councillor Alastair McCraw and Councillor Keith Wellham. Officers attending the meeting are our Chief Executive, Arthur Trevania, Monitoring Officer, Emily Yule, the Assistant Director for Housing, Gavin Fisk, the Assistant Director for Sustainable Communities, Tom Parker, Assistant Director for Assets and Investments, Emily Atack, the Corporate Manager for Housing Solutions, Heather Tucker, the Corporate Manager for Strategic Housing, Robert Hobbs, and we also have Justin King from Parkside Housing joining us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to move to the agenda. Thank you. We have decided to take item 10, that's MCA/20/03, which is the Woolpit Neighbourhood Plan, before the other substantive items. So I'll move now to item 1, apologies for absence. I will now ask the Governance Officer to roll call for the members present.
Thank you, Chair. Members, if you could reply with an indication of your presence when I call your name, thank you. Councillor Brewster?
Present.
Councillor Byrne?
Present.
Councillor Flatman?
Present.
Councillor Fleming?
Present.
Councillor Gould?
Present.
Councillor Haddingham?
Present.
Councillor Morley?
Present.
Councillor Richardson, we have received apologies from, and Councillor Whitehead?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Arfey?
Present.
Councillor Busby?
Present.
Councillor Davis?
Present.
Councillor Holt?
Present.
Councillor Malvisi?
Present.
Councillor Osborne?
Present.
Councillor Parker?
Present.
And Councillor Ward?
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is to receive declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interest by members. Are there any to declare?
Yes, please.
Councillor Malvisi?
Yes.
With respect to which item?
The disabled grants.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Item 3, MCA/20/01 is confirmation of the minutes of the meeting of the Mid-Suffolk Cabinet meeting held on the 7th of September 2020. Are there any points regarding the accuracy of the minutes? No? Thank you. Could I have a proposer, please?
I'm happy to propose the minutes, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you,
Councillor
Councillor.
Flatman.
Thank you. And can I have a seconder, please?
Sorry, very pleased to second, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brewster. The Governance Officer will now conduct the vote.
Thank you, Chair. If you could say for, against or abstain when I call your names, please. Councillor Brewster.
For.
Councillor Byrne.
For.
Councillor Flatman.
For.
Councillor Fleming.
For.
Councillor Gould.
For.
Councillor Haddingham.
For.
Councillor Morley.
For.
And Councillor Whitehead.
For.
Thank you, Chair. That's carried.
Thank you. Item BCA/20/01 is confirmation of the minutes of the meeting of the Babergh Cabinet meeting held on the 7th of September 2020. Are there any Are there any points regarding the accuracy of the minutes?
Mm.
No? Could I have a proposer, please?
I'm happy to propose, Madam Chairman. It's Councillor Jan Osborne.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. And a seconder, please.
And I'll second Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. The Governance Officer will now conduct the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Arthey.
For.
Councillor Busby.
For.
Councillor Davis.
For.
Councillor Holt.
For.
Councillor Malvisi.
For.
Councillor Osborne.
For.
Councillor Parker.
For.
Councillor Ward.
For.
Thank you, Chair. That's carried.
Thank you very much. So the minutes of both meetings have been confirmed and will be signed at the next practicable opportunity. Item 4 is to receive notifications of petitions in accordance with the Council's petition scheme.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Item 5, questions by councillors.
None received.
Thank you. Item 6, matters referred by the Overview and Scrutiny or the Joint Audit and Standards Committees.
There were none, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 7 is the forthcoming decisions list. Does anybody have any comments? No? Thank you very much. So we're now going to jump to item 10, which is MCA/20/03 is the Woolpit Neighbourhood Plan. And I will now invite the Mid-Suffolk Cabinet Member for Planning to introduce this report. Councillor Byrne.
Chair, if I may, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Councillor Malvisi, can I just check your interest for the Disabled Facilities Grant item? Was it a pecuniary or non-pecuniary? Councillor Malvisi?
Yeah, just a minute. I would class it as pecuniary.
Can I ask what capacity it is, please?
I'm having to look at adaptations and ameliorations for my 96-year-old mother.
Okay, thank you.
Who is now in my care.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Byrne, would you like to introduce the Woolpit Neighbourhood Plan, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The report before you updates Cabinet on the progress of the Woolpit Neighbourhood Plan. More specifically, it sets out 2 recommendations. One, that Woolpit Parish Council be instructed to modify their plan in accordance with independent examiner recommendations. And 2, subject to satisfactory completion of the above, Cabinet agrees that the plan be advanced to a local referendum. Once modified, the Woolpit Neighbourhood Plan will contain some 15 policies covering housing, commercial activity, landscape, connectivity and built design. Paragraph 4.2 of the report sets out the key stages prior to examination. The examination itself is discussed in paragraphs 4.3 to 4.5. And at paragraph 4.8, you will see confirmation that officers are in agreement that all the modifications should be made. At paragraph 4.11, there is a reminder that under current government advice, the earliest date upon which a referendum could conceivably take place is 6th of May 2021. The Parish Council is fully aware of this. I will now return briefly to the examination process, as I think it is important to recognise that in this case it did not follow the normal pattern. At a very early stage, the examiner wrote to Woolpit Parish Council outlining her concerns regarding the plan's housing strategy. This was the open letter dated 4th of March 2020, which is now repeated as Appendix 2 in the examiner's final report. The letter set out two options which the Parish Council were asked to consider. First one was to proceed with the examination on the understanding that the examiner would be recommending deletion of the housing strategy policy and accompanying site allocations. Or, the second option was to withdraw the plan from examination. After careful consideration, the Parish Council decided not to withdraw the plan, but to proceed with the examination. That triggered the short public consultation on the proposed significant modifications that we now see in the final report. In this, the examiner also clearly acknowledges that the changes proposed may not be welcomed by all, but she goes on to say that this is an excellent plan with a comprehensive range of policies which will be valuable for guiding the location and scale of future new housing development. Since publication of the examiner's report, your neighbourhood planning officer has been in contact with and has met both the chair and the clerk of Woolpit Parish Council. I am told that those discussions have been of a positive nature and that the Parish Council also recognises the greater benefit to be gained from having an adopted neighbourhood plan in place. Before I finish, I ask that our officers continue to work with the Parish Council and that they provide whatever technical support is needed to ensure that a referendum version of a Woolpit neighbourhood plan can be made available at the earliest opportunity. I also ask our officers to publish the necessary decision statement which will confirm our intention to take the neighbourhood plan to a local referendum. And so I do ask that the Cabinet endorse the recommendations before them, and I look for a seconder. Thank you.
And can I have a seconder, please?
Chair, I'm very happy to second the recommendations at 3.1 and 3.2.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brewster. Before I go into questions and then debate, I'm just going to invite the ward member, Councillor Mansell, to say a few words. Councillor Mansell.
I've just put my video on as well as my mic, so hopefully you can see me. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak about the Woolpit neighbourhood plan. Now, it's been a somewhat up and down journey since the neighbourhood plan area was designated back in 2016. And I fully understand the difficulties about the numbers of proposed housing within Woolpit and the fact that it did not concur with the draft joint local plan. And of course, I think part of the whole story of Woolpit neighbourhood plan is one of timing, really, and the fact that the timings were sort of out of sync with the joint local plan, and the numbers that Woolpit neighbourhood plan were working with did not match the ones for the joint local plan, and there was a delay between the two publications. I also share the many frustrations of both the neighbourhood plan steering group and I'm sure several of the residents of Woolpit, whose aim was really about preserving the rural nature and the historic significance of Woolpit, which I believe is one of the most iconic villages within our district. But we have to also congratulate the Neighbourhood Plan Working Group, who have gone through a considerable amount of work to get this far. And when I read through the examiner's report, I felt that there were a lot of changes, not just the one about the housing policies and the allocations. There do seem to be a number of suggested amendments by the examiner. But as mentioned already by Councillor Byrne, the examiner did clearly state that it is essentially a very good plan. It does contain a number of policies which will help shape future development in Woolpit. It is also my understanding that Woolpit Parish Council are prepared to make the recommended changes, albeit somewhat reluctantly, because obviously, they realise the benefits of Woolpit having a neighbourhood plan, albeit it may not be the one that they first set out to create. Of course, this neighbourhood plan, if you go along with the recommendations today, it will still have to go through the referendum. And that really is, it could go either way. I don't know which way the good people of Woolpit are likely to vote. But I really hope, having put all this work into it, that it is supported by the majority of the residents. And of course, due to the COVID restrictions, the date of this referendum, we still have no idea when it's likely to be, and it's going to be some way off. But I really do hope that eventually Woolpit Neighbourhood Plan does become adopted as part of our planning policy. And I just felt that it was important for there to be some representation of the community in these tricky times. So I do fully support the recommendation for the Cabinet to allow Woolpit Neighbourhood Plan to go on to the next stage, albeit with some indeterminate timeline. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Mansell. So we're now going to move into questions from Mid-Suffolk members. If I just go through each in turn, if you could indicate whether you have a question you would like to ask. Councillor Brewster. Councillor Byrne.
No, I have no questions.
Thank you. Councillor Flatman.
No questions at this time, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Fleming.
No questions, thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Gould.
No questions, thank you.
Councillor Haddingham.
No questions, thank you.
I have no questions. And Councillor Whitehead.
No questions, Chair.
Does any other councillor present wish to ask a question? No, thank you. So
it's Councillor Morley. Sorry, it's Councillor Eburn here. I did have my hand raised, but
I'm terribly sorry, Councillor Eburn. Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. Ask your question, Councillor Eburn.
Thank you very much, Chair. But firstly, I'm a bit confused by the agenda, because I think people, if anyone in Woolpit had been looking at this agenda, they'd have wondered why it was in a confidential section of the agenda. So I think that's a shame that mistake was made. But I've got two questions, if I may. And one is that we've had some issues with neighbourhood plans within planning committees. So could I ask what training there will be for members on the policies within this neighbourhood plan when it goes to referendum, and for other neighbourhood plans that are due to go to referendum, please? And secondly, I was just wondering if someone could explain in more detail the issues about the timings and housing numbers for this plan. Councillor Byrne referred to an early stage letter in March 2020, but that was over a year after Woolpit's own consultation on their neighbourhood plan, so I don't really call that early. And the actual numbers are, there's 727 within the draft emerging joint local plan, and that was released. We only approved it as a council in July 2019 again, which was after the Woolpit's own consultation, and those numbers are supposed to be based on new development locations, and I didn't think they were supposed to be based on every single land allocation put forward for the plan or the majority, and that those numbers at 727 are significantly greater than Debenhams at 278 and Stradbroke's at 282 for a similar sized village. So I just wondered, Chair, if I could possibly have some clarification on that. Thank you very much indeed for allowing me to ask questions.
Thank you, Councillor Eburn. Councillor Byrne, would you like to answer the question or bring in your Assistant Director?
Yes, thank you. I'll try to answer the training one. It is true that we are having quite a lot of neighbourhood plans coming through at the moment, and there are more in the pipeline. And it is obviously necessary for councillors, planning committee members, etc., to keep up to speed with those plans and their relationship to our other development management plans. And so I think we do have some expectation of training for members specifically on that particular point. I have asked for training for neighbourhood plans and relationship with local plan to be brought forward for members. I can't tell you at this stage when that might be. On the other questions, yes, I will bring in my Assistant Director for that one if he's available. If not, I think we have Rob Hobbs with us, strategic planning corporate manager. But Tom, would you be available to answer the Councillor Egan's other questions, please?
I am available, and I'm here with you in the meeting. I think, though, that it will be more beneficial for councillors. You'll get more detail from Robert Hobbs, who's been more intimately involved with the housing numbers and the way that the responses were provided to Woolpit and the plan making progressed. So if I can hand over to Robert Hobbs, your corporate manager for strategic planning, I think that will provide more detail for councillors.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Yeah, if I can just confirm that the preferred options joint local plan version is the published position, which sets out the number 727, and that came after the Regulation 14 consultation on the Woolpit Neighbourhood Plan, but it did come before the plan was submitted for the Regulation 16 consultation. So there was ample opportunity for the Regulation 14 plan to be revisited. In terms of the numbers in comparison with Debenham and Stradbroke, the joint local plan sets out a spatial strategy for the district, across district-wide, to meet the district-wide housing needs. And as a result of that, Woolpit is within the transport corridor, and that is one of the key areas of the spatial distribution within the joint local plan, as opposed to Stradbroke and Debenham that were mentioned.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Councillor Byrne.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
Could I just complete an answer for Councillor Eburn, where she was talking about the length of time that it took for the deficiency, if I can call it that, of the original Woolpit plan was brought to their attention. She quoted the date of March 2020, that examiner's open letter, as being that was not the first occasion on which the drawback had been noticed. In October 2019, we ourselves submitted written representation to the examiner, which, whilst acknowledging that many of our Regulation 14 stage comments had been taken on board, the single critical issue of housing numbers and methodology had not been addressed. So it didn't take quite as long as you were thinking, Councillor Eburn. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Byrne.
Thank you. So I'm now going to open up the item for debate, and I'll go through again each of you in turn. Councillor Brewster.
Sorry. No, Chair, I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Byrne?
No, I think I've said all I have to say, except in my opinion, I've yet to find a circumstance in which a neighbourhood plan is not better than no neighbourhood plan. So I would urge the residents of Woolpit to back this when the appropriate time comes.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Flatman?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Fleming?
No, thank you.
Councillor Gould?
Simply to say that I'm pleased to hear that the Parish Council has agreed to proceed with the examiner's recommendations, and I think that's a positive, very positive response. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Haddingham?
No comment, thank you.
Councillor Whitehead?
I'm happy with the report, so no further comment to make.
Thank you very much. I will now ask the Governance Officer to conduct the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, when I call your name, if you can answer for, against or abstain. Councillor Brewster?
For.
Councillor Byrne?
For.
Councillor Flatman? For. Councillor Fleming?
For.
Councillor Gould?
For.
Councillor Haddingham?
For.
Councillor Morley?
For.
Councillor Whitehead?
For.
Thank you, Chair, that's carried.
Thank you very much, everybody. So we're now moving on to item 8, or as I should say back to item 8, which is the resolution to exclude the public, which terms includes the press. And that is to consider whether, in pursuant to Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public should be excluded from the meeting for the business specified below on the grounds that if the public were present during this item, it is likely that there will be disclosure to them of exempt information as indicated against each item. The author of the report proposed to be considered in Part 2 of the agenda is satisfied that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. So can I please ask for a proposer and a seconder from Mid-Suffolk?
I'm happy to propose that. It's Councillor Haddingham.
Thank you, Councillor. And a seconder?
And I'm happy to second the proposal, Chair.
Thank you very much. And can I have a proposer and a seconder from Babergh? Thank you.
I'll propose from Babergh, Councillor Ward.
Thank you,
I'm happy
Councillor.
to second, Madam Chairman, Councillor Jen Osborne.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Governance Officer will now conduct the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Brewster?
For. Sorry.
Councillor Byrne?
For.
Councillor Flatman?
For.
Councillor Fleming?
For.
Councillor Gould?
For.
Councillor Haddingham?
For.
Councillor Morley?
For.
Councillor Whitehead?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Arfey?
For.
Councillor Busby?
For.
Councillor Davis?
For.
Councillor Holt?
For.
Councillor Malvisi?
For.
Councillor Osborne?
For.
Councillor Parker?
For.
Councillor Ward?
For.
Thank you, Chair. I will now ask Rob to stop the live stream. He'll confirm once that's been done.